Oh, the attack on the Yamato versus the Russians. It wasn't exactly the attack on the Yamato. Versus the Russians exactly. It was basically, I forget exactly who owned the Yamato. I think I did, or I was a part because I know the the Chinese or that when they actually built it, like that was my shipyard in China or Japan. Anyway, though, but what happened was there used to be all these little cannon ships, like little 30 foot and 60 foot long and 80 foot long ships with cannons. They were single cannon or dual cannon ships, something I built. But they were like little steamships, and they had a cannon in the front, basically. And there's pictures of them, and they stick out. And they would go up to the rivers and stuff like that, and they would shoot shells at basically the at the cliffs and stuff, just like the bigger ships do. Anyway, there's all these little ships running around with cannons and all that and stuff. They're individual ships basically, and I had actually built them, and I think, or my shipyard had built them basically, and they're just like they look like just flat decks and a cannon sticking out basically like this, and they'd go, and fire off a shell. Anyway, so they attack the Yamato. I think the Yamato was taken over maybe by some group or something like that. And like I built it or something like that, and then it's boarded and taken over or something like that. The Yamato is a lot older than most people think, or it was when it went down. And I think it was taken over because I think it was my ship, of course, and then I think it was taken over by somebody else. Anyway, and so the little ships, I think they attack it or something like that. We're trying to get it back, trying to board it basically because it's been taken over by somebody else, and they shoot. And I don't think they actually hit the ships. They said they sunk all the ships or 3 or 4 ships, but it's like I don't understand how it could because they're very maneuverable and all that other stuff. And I think I ordered the attack or something like that because it was going to go shell some city or something like that, or had shelled some city, and it was going over to another spot to shell another city or something like that. And basically, I had like 34 of these little guys, or quite a few of these little steam or whatever vessels with the cannon, and I was like, all right, well, we're gonna attack. And like the shells can't really get through the Yamato's armor, but I was like, well, we can get close to it and basically, shell it directly, because if we get underneath, because it can only come down so far. So if those guys got really fast, and there's 34 of them, or I had 34 or 48, or there are 48 total. Like other families own them, basically families that work for me. So I was like, so we're gonna do an attack, as it comes into the harbor or whatever, and it will, it can only come down like this. So if we get close enough, we can get in there. And with it, you could fire at shells, and that might be bad. But I was like, we should be able to board it, somehow. And so there was an attack, and I think we took heavy losses or casualties. I don't. They say it didn't. It sunk them and it won, but I don't know because it was my ship. It had been taken over by another crew or something like that, and we were trying to get close to it to attack it and get a crew on board, like maybe even shoot its cannon or whatever. Because the little cannons they're smaller than the Yamato cannon. So if we get a shell in there, anyway, we had a couple few attack plans, but anyway, we attacked it because it had been taken over by another crew or someone else, and it was basically rogue or something like that. I forget exactly why, but I knew about the attack, and technically they were my old ships, and I owned the Yamato or something like that. I think I had another ship though. Anyway, I was trying to take it in one piece because it's basically an historic, and it was like one of my ships that I proved, and it was at least or 80 years old when it sank, or older. It was a very old ship actually. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a very old ship, at least 80 or 100 years old or something. It was an old ship when it was taken over by another crew. Anyway, so we tried to get back. I think there's some reason why we had to attack it. I think it had hit another city or something, or they said it had hit another city, and so we were trying to get board it and just find out what was going on. So I had those little 34 ships try and get up there, and they say that they got sunk, but they shouldn't have been able to been sunk because they were a lot more. They were pretty fast and a lot more maneuverable than the Yamato. They're like 60 to 80 feet long. So that's what happened there. And it wasn't really Russia. I mean, they may have been Russian or something like that, but they were basically just families that did mining, that worked for me. And it's like, well, they've already hit one town or two towns, and if we let them go, they're just going to keep going around until we stop them. So anyway, I'm not exactly sure exactly what was going on more than that, and I forget the details of it. But basically, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I was part of that too, and I built cannons and like harbor defenses and all that stuff. So that's what I do. So anyway, so and the Yamato was like one of my ships. Like I was the only one that had that much steel. And technically, I think I might have mortgaged. And there was another ship before the Yamato that was a little bit smaller. See, after the little ships, I had these little ships, and I manufactured them, and I was like, all right, and I sold them off and bought and produced a bigger ship between the Yamato and those little ships. And it was pretty cool. It worked out really good. And then eventually I upgraded to the Yamato class, which is, it's like I say, it was a beautiful ship. It was really, it just had style. I mean, the Japanese designers that did it, and of course there's probably some Germans involved and other people involved, but I mean they just styled it in such a way that it was just like it was a gorgeous ship. It really was. I was really proud of it, and everybody was really proud of it. And it did really well. I mean, it was a nice ship. It was beautiful. I wish more people had been able to see it and stuff like that. There should be film of it though, because it was one. All my ships were filmed, so there should be film of the Yamato firing and maneuvering around and all that. Because I built it at that shipyard, and Japan, like I say, Japan and China, they're really, 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 really good countries. Like I love them. I feel very deeply a deep love for the Japanese and Chinese. Like the Yamato might have actually even been a German vessel at one point in time, or something like that, because they were the ones with the steel and everything else like that. And we were uplifting the Japanese and Chinese into basically the Yamato class because you use it for breaking up rock and everything else like that. That's what they're for, is to smash through basically rock, very hard rock. So the shell, shoving the shell at that speed towards rock. But I don't know if we had ammonium nitrate back then. Probably, but anyway, but yeah. But it was a glorious ship. It was absolutely glorious. And it wasn't top secret, though, I don't think. Um, I forget what the deal was. There was something to do with the harbor or something like that. Anyway, but I mean, a lot of those decisions, those were mine. So, anyway, though, but it was a very beautiful ship. And the crew was very expert on it. So, anyway, but yeah, that's what happened back then. And when they weren't Russian necessarily, I think they were collective of families or something like that. And we did take heavy casualties, um, they say. So it was one of my mistakes, I guess you could say, because, well, it already hit one town, so it's like, well, I wonder how many people this ship's going to kill. So we were hunting it. Anyway, and I really wanted to take it over because it's a historical artifact. Like it's one of a kind. They might have had one other. There might have been up to three of them. I'm not exactly sure because I rarely just built one, but I think there might have been just been one. Anyway, it was old though. It was like 80 years old. It almost outdated, but glorious ship and expert crew. Everything was amazing. Like the Japanese were the most trained, and like they lived and breathed their like I said, the Japanese used to actually blindfold themselves. So, and they would actually have to go and they would report to duty at their workstations, just like they actually did blind like midnight training where they would blindfold themselves and then they would run through the practice motions of how to do their job without ever using their eyes. That's how dedicated the Japanese were. Like I say, I would commit seppuku and like bow my head to any Japanese or Chinese. They're incredibly dedicated and the most honorable and the most respectful group or race or life form type that are people that I ever worked with. Like they're amazing, absolutely amazing.